So before I do anything else, I'm going to put a background behind everything. And that's because even though I made the background of the composition window white, it doesn't mean that there's actually a white background there. That's just for visibility on screen. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid. And solid means a solid color, an area of a solid color. And you see that Command or Control Y is the shortcut. I'm just going to call this background and make sure it is the full size of my animation, 1920 by 1080. And I could say make comp size, which is the same thing, would match that. Okay, so there it is. It put in a new layer here called background, and it's the full length of my timeline. I'm going to bring it down to the bottom here. So that is there now, and I'm going to lock it. So let's go in and animate the red circles to go from this arrangement to this arrangement. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to double click on this bar, duration bar right now, or I could go up here and double click on this icon here. Either way, it'll open up this composition for step number 1. First thing first, I'm going to move also these silhouette and detail lines. I'm going to move them down to the bottom of my layer stack here, and I'm going to lock them like that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to my second step here. I'm going to copy and paste all of the ending conditions for step number 1. How they end up at step number 2, I'm going to simply copy and paste them into a new composition. And it's going to be sort of a guide dummy composition for me. Let me just zoom in a little bit here and select all of these purple circles. You see when I roll over each one, these little corners show up to show that I'm hovering over that layer item there. So I hit Control C or Command C to copy, composition, new composition, and I'm just going to say to guide. That's what I call it, to guide. All the same settings as all of my other compositions. Okay. Now, if we zoom out, fit this thing, and we paste, it pastes them in place. So that's a great thing about After Effects. If you hit paste, it automatically pastes in place. So all of these are in this new to guide composition now. And then I'm going to go back to the first step here, and I'm going to grab that and put it in on top of everything. So there's that now. You see that in my composition space, I've got that sitting on top. So that's going to be my guide, what I'm going to aim for. I'm going to use the purple circles here as the target. What I'm also going to do is right click on this and make it a guide layer. So no matter what, it's not going to render out. Guide layers are there just for visual on the screen, and they won't render out. And I'll lock it. Furthermore, I'll switch my modes here. I'll click this down at the bottom here and change the mode of this. I have to unlock it actually first. Change this to difference. And you can see now I can see through that and see the red underneath it. Now I'll lock it. I'm going to go back to my main composition and just double check the timing here to see when I want things to start animating. So, you know, I kind of want this to stay for maybe a couple seconds, maybe a few seconds. So I'm just going to, in my composition, I'm going to go forward to say 4 seconds inside here, and that's where I'm going to have the animations take place. So 4 seconds, I'm going to select all of my red circles and set a position keyframe for all of them like that. So the starting position, or the starting positions are right like that. And now I will animate each one individually according to how I want them to end up looking like the purple circles. For example, this one down here, which is C1, I'm going to scale and move to match this purple circle. So I'll take perhaps, let's say, 7 frames. I'll go forward 7 or 8 frames. And at that point there in time, this one will, now I'm lining up the centers. The center of my red, new center position of my red circle with the center of my target one. So that's position, and it made a new keyframe automatically for that position. Now I'm also going to do scale. So let me go back here, hit S for scale, set a keyframe for that. And what I can do is I can hit my Uber key while C1 is selected, and you see what Uber does is it toggles all of the keyframes that happen to be there active right now. So scale, I'm going to go forward here to scale and set a new scale by increasing the size there. So like that. So the animation for that one is going to be like that. And when the guide is not there, that's what's going to happen there. So I'm going to go through and go through each one of my red circles, and some of them are going to go away. They're going to animate out to the sides. For example, like this one, A1 here. I'm not going to do a scale, I'm just going to position. And so at the end time for A1, maybe I want A1 to sort of just move off this direction after 7 frames. So, and then maybe I'll do a transparency for that. So let's do T, and at that position, I'd send the position, let's say it's 0, and at its beginning position here, we'll say that's 100. The animation for that one will be, it just goes off into sort of oblivion. And maybe B1 here turns into the big one. So on B1, let's do position, oops, P, there it opens in position, and then scale also, we'll set that. It's at the Uber key to open them both up. Okay, so then I'm going to go forward in time to the ending position, the ending state, move it into position where I want it to be the ending. I'm going to use my arrow keys to nudge it. So the center of that circle or oval is lined up with the center of the purple one. And then I'm going to select scale and affect the scale at that ending keyframe time. So there, at the ending keyframe time, something like that. So now my animation is looking like that. So I'm going to go through and do all of the red ones now. And for this one here, which stretches more in one dimension or another, I'm going to make sure that my scaling is not locked X and Y. So I'm going to do the position first. Now let's go back and do scale, keyframing. And to unlock it, again, it's this little icon here to constrain the proportions. I don't want to do that. I want to not constrain the proportions. So the Y is going to scale up like that. And that's it. I'll keep the X the same. It looks like I have to fix the position a little bit here. Something like that. And it'll be the same for this one here. So its position will be something like that for the center point, and it's scaling. I'll go back to starting position, hit S for scale, set a keyframe, turn off the constraining the proportions, and at the end time its X is bigger. And it looks like its position needs to be changed a little bit as well. And some of these I might also need to do a little bit of rotation. Some rotation could help as well. Something like this, and yes, you can see I need to rotate this one in order for it to be correct. So we'll set up R for rotation keyframe, and here let's make sure we set the default position, and then at the end of the animation now we'll begin rotating it a little bit. And that's kind of okay. Let's fix the position a little bit by nudging it. And its scale a little bit, its Y scale, let's bring that down a little bit so that we got some rotations, scaling, and position for that one. And you can see though that when we scale Illustrator artwork, the stroke gets thicker as well, which is not what we need. So there's a technique we can use to fix that within After Effects. Alright, so there's our animation. Let's turn off the guide layer here and see how that looks. Hit the spacebar. Alright, I'm going to move my work area to just that bit of animation. So this is also where it's going to loop. So I've hit the spacebar, it kind of loops through there. That's kind of a lot. And if that seems kind of fast, all we have to do is select some of these keyframes and move them. So maybe we move them to, you know, if we want it to be like half a second or something, we 15 frames or so, or we can move it to about, say, there. Now if we replay it, what we can also do is select all these keyframes, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and use Easy Ease on them. So that'll soften the start. It'll slow down the start and slow down the ending a little bit. So it's a little more natural, except this one here, I think My keyframes are a little off for some reason. And this one, they seem to be off a little bit somehow. The timing seems to be a little bit off. So let's see here. If we open them all up and you see, yes, so there are a couple here that are a little off. So we'll move those here and make sure that the ease is on. This one, the ease is on. And here, let's turn on the easing. Move that. So apparently I didn't have these keyframes open when I did the easy ease, or when I adjusted the timing. Yeah, all right, so now much better. All right, if we go back to the main composition now and play this. All right, so in fact, what I might want to do is have this first text here fade out a little sooner. Say after 2 seconds. And I'll open up this, and so here I can take this opacity fade in, I can copy and paste, and this is another fade in, but I can go to Keyframe Assistant, time reverse, and now it's a fade out, and do that, copy and paste those to this one, fade that out, so fade them out, and then I can stagger perhaps these ones right there, so we subdivide equally and stretch the subdivisions, and there. And then perhaps this is when we have this one fading in. You can have this one actually fade out. So let's copy this, paste it again, time reverse those, there. And so now our animation looks a little like this. And I have, in the second one, I have all these silhouette and detail items turned off, so we can turn those back on. All right. And what I can even do is I can overlap these so that they sort of fade into each other.